Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to go back out to the range and shoot the 7mm-08. We are going to be testing out the 139 grain Barnes LRX bullets with big game powder. This time the 7mm-08 looks a little different. It's got the Big Easy scope on it. That's what I call it. It's this scope by Discovery Optics, this 5x25 by 56, the ED PRS Gen 3. I did a review on the channel of the rings and the scope. It's way too big for this gun. It'll be a good bench rest scope, you know, just to verify that your loads are good, so I can just focus on the load development. So definitely a better optical system than the last time. Nothing wrong with that Nikon scope that was on it, but this definitely is an upgrade. It also has a 10mm trigger, and I even put a little sticker on there. But I went and bought a 10mm trigger to replace the trigger it had. That was kind of a weak point, was that trigger. So it's got a better trigger, better optical system, and I made some hand loads today and we're gonna go out and shoot them. Myself and some family today are gonna shoot this gun. I've got 3 loads set up, ready to go with big game powder. According to Barnes published data, I should hopefully get around a little over 2,900. They showed around 2,920, 2,930 with big game powder, probably in a 24-inch barrel, and this will be 22-inch barrel. So if I can get around 2,900, that's pretty good. If you recall in my last 7mm-08 video, I got 2,800 with 162 grain AMAXs with super performance powder. And so if I don't get good velocity with this powder, I might try that. I just can't find any load data on that particular bullet weight. But I feel like super performance and 7mm-08 are a good combo. But the big game powder is also a good powder. It fills the case really nicely. It's the third load today that is max is a compressed load, and the one before it's getting pretty close to compressed. I've got 3 loads, a full grain under max, a half grain under max, and then max. Obviously I want low SD, tight group, and shooting for 2,900 feet per second. That's the goal. So let's go out to the range and see how it does. All right, so you see the group size there on the screen now. 0.7-inch group, pretty darn good. That was me shooting. The next 2 groups is not me, but it shot really well. The velocity was already pretty good, so pretty happy with that. I should mention it was about 80 degrees today, so it was kind of on the hot side. And so if I'm gonna see pressure, probably we'll see it today. But then I know when I go hunting, it's not going to be 80 degrees. So the pressure issue, if I can get through today without significant pressure, I feel really good about hunting season. That could contribute also slightly to the velocity. It could make the velocity be up a little bit compared to normal. But so far so good. Let's shoot the second group. All right, so my brother Garrett shot that second group, and you see it. It's under a ½ inch. Fantastic group. The SD on my first group was pretty terrible. This one was better, definitely better. Not fantastic, but definitely better. And really impressed. Velocity 2950 average. That's fantastic. That's better than what Barnes published data said. Probably in a 24-inch barrel. All right, on this last group, my other stepbrother Nick had 2 pretty close, but then that third one was kind of a flyer. We did, however, start seeing pressure. There was multiple pressure signs, including a little bit heavy for bolt lift. It wasn't terrible, but it was definitely there. And you could tell on the back of the case, and especially on the primer edges, there was some pressure. And so to me, it's real clear. If you look at Nick's group and the SD, and the velocity actually went down, kind of shocking. It's a clear-cut winner on that middle group that Garrett shot. Had the best SD, had the best group with no pressure. And so the pressure, I mean, there might have been the absolute slightest bolt lift issue on that middle group, but not really much. And once again, it's 80 degrees. Okay, so, and the ammo had been sitting in my car for a little bit. And so this is pretty much the extreme. Anytime in the future I shoot this, it will be cooler and in different conditions, leading to probably less pressure. So pretty happy with that middle group. Definitely need to shoot more though. Need to verify that this continues and that nothing changes. In case you're fairly new to my channel and you wonder what I do on reloading, I'll go over it quickly. The very first thing I do is see where my bullet jams into the lands at using Hornady's overall length gauge and a caliper set. I usually do it 3 times and then I go with the average of those 3, but it's really not much different. I jam it in there. I have just enough pressure where I know it's fully in there. It doesn't engrave the bullet, but it's fully in there and jammed. And then I knock it out with a cleaning rod very easily, just tap it. And I do that 3 times, and that gives me pretty much a spot-on measurement of where it is jammed into the lands. With a monolithic bullet, such as this Barnes LRX, I then go back 50 thousandths from that spot, and that's where I go, and I stay there unless I feel like I need to move. If it's a bonded bullet or a cup and core bullet, I just simply go 20 thousandths off of the lands. So 20 thousandths off the lands with anything other than a monolithic, which is 50 thousandths. I do a separate step at the beginning and I decap the brass. I knock the primer out on a separate step. I deburr the flash hole and I clean the primer pocket with a brush, little tool made for it. Sometimes I'll wet tumble the brass at that point if it's really bad. A lot of times I won't. In this case, this particular brass, I did clean it because it was factory ammo that I had shot up and it looked pretty nasty. So it did get a wet tumble. Of course, I full length resize the brass after it's well lubed up. However, I take out the expander ball and so it does not touch the neck at all. It just really just shrinks the neck down a little bit. And then it's not where it needs to be. I need to run a second step, which I run an expander mandrel die from 21st Century. And it's set at 2.5 thousandths neck tension. I try to set the shoulder bump when I full length resize to about 2 thousandths shoulder bump. If that first one ends up at 3, I just leave it there as long as I'm consistent throughout. But 2 to 3 thousandths on the shoulder bump. Lube, full length size, neck tension set to 2.5. Then of course I clean all the lube off of it and I measure it to see if it needs to be trimmed. Separate the brass that needs trimmed, go ahead and trim it down to spec. And then of course I just deburr and chamfer the case mouth. You definitely can go way beyond where I'm going, but you definitely could be more simple. But that's my standard way of doing it. I seat my bullets with the universal primer seater from Frankfurt Arsenal. Keeps working just fine and I've had no issues with it. I make sure that my powder is within 1/10 of a grain. I use the RCBS Chargemaster link, hooks up to my phone. If for some reason it dumps something beyond 1/10 of where I want it, I dump it back in there and do it again. So I make sure that my loads are either exactly where I want or within 1/10. I pretty much just focus on powder at that point and my shooting, trying to be as consistent as possible. If I feel satisfactory in everything that I've done, and my standard deviation is really good with the powder, and I'm getting the velocity I want, but I'm still not getting good groups, I might abandon the powder, but probably I will at that point adjust seating depth. And I don't personally think it's worth adjusting 3 or 5. I would go like probably 20 thousandths and, you know, just really have a decent jump there. Mess with the seating depth till you get the accuracy that you're looking for. And then the key, of course, is making sure that you verify this. Don't just shoot it one time with one 3-shot group, but you need to shoot a few 3-shot groups to make sure that it stays the same. So overall, very impressed with the accuracy that I got out of these Barnes LRX bullets. I think it's going to be a great load. I got better velocity than I expected. I was hoping to get 2900. I got 2950. I got a 1/2 inch group. I got a 3/4 inch group. And then that last group with pressure expanded a bit. But I mean, I was very happy. Also happy with this scope. I mean, just having this big easy scope on here really took out a lot of the variables. And I knew I didn't have to worry about, can I see the target? Is it clear? And with these nice rings on here, I just knew that it was solid. So it was nice to have a really good trigger and a really good scope while testing out reloads. I'd like to know your thoughts. Do you have experience with this LRX bullet in the 7mm-08 or just LRXs in general? Or the 7mm-08? Just your general thoughts on it. But pretty happy with this hunting load. Within reasonable distances, you could kill just about anything in this world with this gun. Obviously, it wouldn't be good for dangerous game, but definitely a good load. Should offer great penetration. It is a little softer than the TSX or the TTSX, so it will expand and its range will be a little bit extended compared to those. So great bullet, great cartridge, fun day at the range. Hey guys, thank you for watching the video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. More content like this coming out. Hope you have a wonderful day, and until next time, take care.